Today on TTS Support, Trevor Olson asks, how do you recreate these dials within TTS? So Trevor basically 3D printed these things, and for those of you who are familiar with 3D printing, you basically do that with a 3D file, of course, right? So the problem he's having stems from the fact that his 3D object is a single object. So within TTS, he can't actually color the different portions of a single 3D object, unfortunately. So as you saw, the dials are actually multiple colors. So the base of a dial is this gray silver color, the numbers are black, and the handle, the knob thing, is colored based on the color of the player, right? So you can't do that within TTS, at least not to my knowledge. So there has to be a way in order for you to actually color these things within TTS and just, color tint them just so that you can adjust it for the different player colors and what have you. Of course, you can do that within a 3D software like Blender, but we'd want to do that within TTS as much as possible, just so that we don't have to bother ourselves with learning a very, very complicated piece of software like Blender. So I did have to work with a file that Trevor gave me, of course, right? And then I had to take this into Blender and separate the different components of that object so that we can actually color the different components of the dial within TTS. But don't worry, you don't need to know how to work with Blender, because I will show you how to actually do a similar execution of this purely within TTS. But before I do that, of course, I want to address Trevor's concern and work with the files that he provided. So as you saw, the dial, I basically broke down into the pieces that are different colors, right? So the base, the numbers, and the knob itself. So here's the base, here are the numbers, and here is the knob, and here's even the actual frame wherein the actual dial sits in. So yeah, so once you've actually separated these within your 3D software, or if you have a separate, asset or component within TTS, then you can actually color these things. So you just go ahead. So this one was a gray color, I believe, right? So you could go something like that, right? And there's the color. And then the numbers are black. Nothing's completely black, but we'll go pretty close, and you'll see that it doesn't appear black. That's because the material of that is very much reflective. So you can just go to custom, go to, so it'll default to the model tab. You want to go to material, and the specular intensity is what you're looking to reduce. All right, so maybe to a 2. I mean, we still want it shiny, but not too shiny. And then press on import, and there you go. Much better. And then, of course, the knob, let's go and color it the blue. The blue color, right? So something like that. Awesome. And there you go. And now we just need to assemble the actual dial. So this is the thing that actually makes TTS very, very powerful in terms of creating your own components and all of that, but not a lot of people actually use this feature, which is this, the combine feature, which allows you to attach certain things to each other. So this attach portion is what I'm going to use, but there are different kinds of combining different components within TTS, but these things are a little specialized, which we won't need for our purposes, so we'll just focus on this. So in order for me to be able to actually align these properly, because basically that is what the dial is going to look like in the end. Sorry, I forget English sometimes. We'd want to center it as much as possible, right? So we'll use the help of our handy dandy snap points, place it somewhere there randomly, and then we'll snap the base to it. Boom. And since these are all centered, if it snaps together, boom, it's definitely going to be centered. And then the knob, there you go. And there is our dial. Of course, these things are still separate objects, and that's not what we want. We want the dial to be one complete object so that when we rotate one component of it, everything is going to actually rotate with it, right? So I'm rotating that. You just can't see it because it's cylinder. So yeah, so how do we do that? So we want to determine first what the parent object is going to be, which is typically the biggest object that we want to have in, the bigger component. So in that case, it would be this base, right? So what we would do is we go to our combine tool. So you can just click on combine or you can click on attach, whichever. They will work fine. So what we want to do is we want to attach the numbers to the base. All right, so luckily TTS does help us by highlighting whatever we mouse over, whatever we hover over, and so that's what we're selecting, right? So we just click and drag, and then until we see that the base is being highlighted. There you go. All right, so did you see that? From the numbers, it started to highlight the base instead. So from there, we just release, and there you go. Now, the base and the numbers are actually one object, as you can see. Pretty cool, right? So the only thing left is to actually attach the knob, right? So we'll do the same thing. So we'll click on combine or attach, and then just drag that into the base. So now it's actually easier to attach to because the numbers are also part of the bigger dial object. So when you actually click and drag, it's actually going to, basically the numbers are actually going to be part of the dial, and that's why we see the highlight much sooner than we did earlier. So we just click and drag and release, and there you go. That's it. There is our wonderful dial. Okay, so now we can color this, I believe it was black as well. And then, yep, we can adjust the material specular as well. And we can use our snap point, and there you go. Fantastic. There is your dial, and that's really, really cool. But of course, that does come with knowledge of 3D software, but don't worry, we'll get to that in a bit. But for now, what do we do then? Because there are supposed to be 4 dials, right? What do we do then to recreate the others? So now that the dial is just one object, we'd want to be able to separate them again somehow, right? So let's just duplicate that and copy and paste it. There you go. So if you want to separate the objects again, it's a very, very simple operation. You just get the combine tool again, click on the object you want to detach its components of, and then you drag it off to the table, or basically to empty space, right? So don't drag it to something, because that's going to attach that to that object that you're dragging it into. Just drag it to the table that is not interactable, and they will be separated. There you go, as you can see. All right, so it's just a matter of changing that color to the yellow. I believe there was a yellow. A little too yellow for my taste. There you go. There you go. And then just do the same process earlier. So do note that if you detach something, then all of the components will be detached. All right, so in other words, we need to attach the numbers and the knob again to the base since everything was separated earlier. So yeah, we just do that very quickly. I know it's not centered, so bear with me. Having a little bit of a problem because there we go. Perfect. Awesome. And there you go. So you just do that for every dial and you're good to go. Now, of course, that is with the benefit of a 3D object, right? What if you don't have a 3D object? How can you actually do this in, a similar way within TTS and just using TTS tools? So what we can do is actually work with tokens. Now, custom tokens, that is. So just go to our custom menu and just go with token and then create a new token. And essentially, I have prepared these different images, and they're just white, as you can see. So let's do the base first. So let's go open up that circle. Okay, we'll do a cloud upload. And then we'll make the thickness maybe 0.15, something like that. All right, so let's just wait for it. There you go. So now you might be wondering, why am I using tokens instead of a tile, which could also be used. I'll show you very quickly, because you can turn it into a circle, right? And then you can use that same file. The reason is because you can tint a token that is white. Oops. Why? What's happening? Why? There you go. So strange. But you cannot really tint a tile. There you go. So you can tint an entire token for as long as that token image is white, but you cannot do the same for a tile because it treats that image that you use as something that it cannot color tint. All right, so just in case you were wondering. All right, so now let's just try to, estimate how big this is going to be. There you go, something like that seems correct. It's a little thick, right? So we'll make this that little gray color. There you go. And then we'll do another import. Maybe we can do the knob first. So what we can do is we just copy and pasted the same thing, and then we'll just play around with the scale. We'll turn this into maybe a 0.3, something like that. It's too small. We'll scale that again. So what I'm using is the Gizmo tool right here. So just select something and you can adjust the position, the rotation, and the scale by typing in numbers on your keyboard. So let's do 8.5. It's probably going to be good. Yep. And then what we can do is, since we want it a little higher, we'll just turn the thickness up all the way and not update it. And let's use our handy dandy snap tool again, so that everything just lines up nice and easy. And there you go. And then we can color this whatever we want. Let's do the red, I suppose. Okay. And there you go. And then we can attach this already. And we have the beginnings of our dial. Right? Okay, of course, the only thing missing would be the numbers. So let's do another token for that. Maybe up the thickness to maybe around 40 something? I don't know. We can always just change that later, and we upload our sample number. And of course, you just need to do this for every number that you want. Wait for it, okay. And then we scale it down using the minus key on our keyboard. That's also a different method of changing a scale of your assets within TTS. Let's close this. And then we can color this the black that we had earlier, or at least a very, very dark gray. And there you go. Perfect. And then we can change our camera. So we can right click on the table, change our camera mode to top down, just so that we can align it properly. Press the space bar in order to, default to that squared out view. So if your view is slanted like this, press a space bar, you'll return to a more square point of view. And then, yeah, basically we'll just position that and then copy it a few more times, depending on how many times you really need it. Then just rotate these things properly, and don't forget to change this if need be. Oops. Let's just back up a little bit. Oh. So, maybe I shouldn't have copied everything so quickly. So, go to third person, because that too is stuck there inside. Let's just put everything to the side first. I mean, you get the idea, right? So basically what we want to do is just line everything up. Rotate this with an E. Rotate this twice. Of course, we'll probably need to scale it down, but, just for the sake of demonstrating everything, let's just do this. You can just be a little bit more OC about it next time. But yeah, let's just say that's it. We'll go back to third person so that we can actually do that. Okay. So clean it up a little bit. And yeah, let's just say that's your completed dial. Then yeah, the same operation as earlier. So drag from the number to where you want to parent it. Just keep doing that until everything's actually attached to the parent object that you have. And yeah, that's it. There you go. There is our dial that's completely built within TTS. So there you go. Hopefully that was useful. I certainly thought this video would be much shorter, but hopefully this was helpful for you, Trevor, and for anybody else who's wondering how you can build your own components within TTS. And this is an easy way to do it, and pretty simple, I think, and still very powerful because you can pretty much import any kind of token that you want, any shape that you want, and you'll be able to create some crazy awesome components within TTS without having the need to, learn other software, very complicated software like Blender or Photoshop or what have you. So there you go. Thanks everyone, and I hope this was useful for you. Oh yes, and keep designing games. Talk to you again soon.